Good evening and welcome inside the Hera Press Box. We are starting our episode just as the Minnesota Lynx are winning Game 4, 80-69, to force a Game 5 headed back to the wonderful Williams Arena in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Hey, Alyssa, how you feeling?
Oh, just fantastic after
Good.
watching the Sparks lose and a championship game being played in the barn.
It's great, isn't it?
Makes zero sense.
Zero. I could think of worse places they could have it.
That's true, but it's one of the worst places that it could happen in.
They could have it at the Kohl Center.
You think that's worse?
Oh, the Kohl Center is terrible. Okay, so first, what we've been doing the last couple of weeks is handing out grades for different leagues. Started with we go WNBA first. No, we went
NWHL, didn't we?
We went NWHL first, then we went WNBA, gave grades on names and logos, and then a grade for their arena, and then a grade for their jersey on a team-by-team basis. Did you spend a lot of time on yours this week?
To be honest, no. Simply because there's not that many teams, and no,
that's fine. And so I
had a feeling of what I knew that I was going to give them going into it, so I knew that it wasn't. I had already kind of made up my mind.
Yeah, and that's fine. We do have, I think, a pretty hefty schedule on our hands. So, if you don't mind, we don't have to go through everyone tonight. We'll just go through, if you have anything to say, you can, or maybe give a team that scored fairly well in all three categories, or a team that scored poorly in all three. So that's my thinking behind it. I'll go ahead and go with the Chicago Bandits. I had B's in all category, B+ for their name and logo, their colors with grade on their jerseys, and it's a similar situation to the Chicago Sky out in the suburbs. So their field, I'm a fan of that. And eventually I'll get up there. Eventually I'll go watch probably the Texas Charge with Billy Landry. I would like to this past season, but I did not get up there. So B's across the board for them. C's across the board for San Antonio Pride. They're pretty boring. It's one of those red, white, and blue teams that doesn't do a whole lot with their logo and jerseys, but they win, and that's all that matters, except in this segment of the Hera Press Box. So those are the two that I'll mention. Anything noteworthy from you?
No, just kind of matching. I guess my grades were the same with those two teams that you picked. I would say I probably gave worse grades to the Bandits just because I don't like their colors. They remind me of the Bears, and it's just not a fan. But I did give their ballpark a good grade. It was one of my favorite parks, actually, surprisingly. I think I gave them a higher grade because it's on the street called Jenny Finch Way. So I bumped them up half a grade with that one. And I didn't know that they played in Rosemont. If I would have known that, that's a quick drive for me. I'm a little disappointed in myself for not knowing that. The Pride, I had 2 B's, and I gave them their stadium an A simply because it holds a lot, and it's a really nice facility that they have. I can't knock that facility.
You gave them the opposite grades that I gave them. Is that what you meant to say?
Sure. What did you give them, C's?
Yeah, all C's.
Oh, okay. Well, B's are close enough to C's, right? That's how I looked at it when I was in school. All right. I pretended C's were B's when I was in school. But I just went opposite with you on the ballpark. But yeah, I didn't really give anybody too good of a grade. The best grade I gave was for the Pride in their stadium or their field.
Okay. Yeah, I gave B+ for name of the Chicago Bandits, them having a visibly recognizable woman as their logo. The Bandit was enough for me to give them B+.
Yeah.
Like I said, we do have a bit to get to. covering a couple of different topics, a couple of different sports. NWSL season is wrapped up. Chicago Red Stars were clearly not worried about getting the 3 seed. They lost, so they will be the 4 seed and traveling to North Carolina for that first round matchup. And the Pride.
Did you see Kristen Press's interview after the game? Did you read about it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, she was not happy. She said that she was angry that she didn't get to play, and she goes, I know that the other starters, there's something along the lines of, I know that the other starters weren't happy as well. She goes, she thought that Dames was going to use it as a motivator for them to do well, and she just goes, we'll see. Oh. So I guess we will see.
And I know that, well, because Huerta and Colaprico subbed in.
Yeah.
Those two didn't start. Summer Green and Lauren Caskey got the starts, which I was excited for, but that didn't materialize into anything, which was disappointing. But yeah, that's we'll see if that does turn into anything. And then the Orlando Pride will be traveling to Portland for that first round matchup. And might as well make our predictions now. What do you got for us?
What do I have? Oh, man. I think Orlando, when I was listening to the game yesterday, they were saying that Orlando wanted to play Portland. Now, I don't know who in their right mind would want to go to play at Portland. So I think that that's going to be a tough game. I think Portland is going to win that game, even though I'm okay with whoever wins that game, though. And I hope Chicago beats North Carolina. So Chicago, Portland. That's based off of Portland's a gut feeling, and I just want Chicago to win.
I think Portland wins. I think Mingus and Sonnet are enough to stifle any attack that Orlando's going to throw at them. Yeah, and I'm with you there as far as wanting Chicago to win. I don't think it happens.
Right.
North Carolina's been the best team all year, and as much as I biasly would like Chicago to win, I don't think they get that done. So I'd go with North Carolina. Portland, chalk matchup 1-2 in the championship. Who wins that matchup? I don't have an opinion yet so far.
Yeah, neither do I. I was hoping you weren't going to ask about that.
Yeah, we'll jump off that bridge when we get to it.
Speaking of, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I was just gonna say, speaking of NWSL, and I know we got some other things to go and talk about, but just talking about the Pass the Ball initiative. I do believe I saw a tweet from you a couple of days ago talking about at least the commercial. I don't know if we're talking about the same commercial or thinking of the same commercial, but it's just kind of this initiative that's going on with the NWSL. And the person that they chose to promote it, or however they choose the person to promote it, remember this is an NWSL initiative, was Carly Lloyd. She went on, I think it was Good Morning America or the Today Show, one of those, and she talked all about it. Now, I understand that to a certain extent because it's Carly Lloyd. She's essentially the most well-known soccer player that there is. Do I think that she should be this season representing that initiative? Probably not. I thought they could have picked someone better. Now, who that would be is another question. But the fact that she missed a handful of games in the beginning, and how many games did she actually play this season? Not even 5, right? Maybe 5. And then got hurt and hasn't played since. So
you said it would be a question of who else it would be.
Right, and I'm trying to think of who else it would be, because my assumption is the reason why they chose her is because she's on the national team. She's Carly Lloyd. That's why she got chosen. Everyone's going to know who Carly Lloyd is. People are going to turn on their TV to watch her. If you were going to pull I mean, some person who doesn't play on any sort of national team or isn't on the U.S. national team, how many people are going to turn on their TV and watch it? Probably no one. But you could have gone with like a fan favorite or something that's not on the national team. There are enough players that you could have chosen that you've had in other NWSL commercials on Lifetime that you could have chosen.
Is Lloyd the only one player in that commercial? So that wasn't the commercial I was talking about. The commercial I was talking about was, it's a DirecTV commercial that has, I want to say, a player from each team in the commercial, and they advertise that time and Dish, not DirecTV, it's Dish and Lifetime. Yeah, and has a player from every team, I think is what it is.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Is Lloyd the only player in that commercial?
To be quite honest, that's a good question. I didn't watch.
So I saw that initiative. I saw the Pass the Ball initiative, and I just watched that. There's some video that I watched, but I know I didn't look too much into it.
Right. And neither did I. I just thought it was interesting that the person that they picked was a person who hasn't been, at least this year, hasn't been heavily involved with the league, but is just that well-known player.
So that wouldn't be directed towards.
Say that again.
You know, is that with that? Who's that? That verse Lloyd is doing with this initiative, is that towards the people who are already fans or towards people who aren't fans? Does it hurt the league that if it's directed towards the people that are fans, are they going to be like, well, heck, she didn't even play half the season. Why? You know, I'm not gonna watch the game this weekend because she's doing it. You know, are they that aren't fans? You know, they're not going to be like, she didn't play half the year.
Yeah. I think it was meant towards people who aren't fans. I saw a tweet and I forgot. I can try and look it up here by the end. But
my point is, they wouldn't even know that. So
right, exactly. So if it's I see what you're saying. So if it's geared towards people who aren't fans, then it makes sense because they're not going to know.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they're not going to hold a grudge against the league for doing that.
Right. There was a tweet out there that said, I'm going to try and find it hopefully by the end of the show tonight, that the NWSL has gained 1,000 followers on Twitter, I do believe it was, since the initiative started. So it was clearly, or if it wasn't meant for essentially non-fans, that's what happened, is that it gained.
Yeah, and that makes me realize how that Dish and Lifetime commercial, how cool that is, that they do have a representative from each team. And that way, when you turn it on, no matter who you see playing, you're going to be able to recognize at least one from each side.
Right.
And it even takes it to another level as far as drawing people in and being personable with their fans.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you.
We've made our playoff predictions for the first round. Talk about the Rookie of the Year predictions for a bit. Looking up that. So I tweeted out maybe a week after the draft, and this isn't. I didn't plan for this to be, for me to be as right as I was. But so no showboating on my part. I just wanted to bring this up while you're doing something else, focus on something I can talk about for a little bit. I had tweeted out a week after the draft that my predictions, if there was sort of a 2017 all draft class. So on that all draft class, I had Ashley Hatch, who's been mentioned for Rookie of the Year more than anybody, it seems like, what I've read and heard. Rachel Hill, who has really come on in Orlando. It was a great pickup for them coming in. Well, now starting or off the bench. Either way, she's a force at the forward position for the Pride. Stephanie Ribeiro, who tore her ACL, has not played. Rose Lavelle, who has been injured, but obviously it's Lavelle, and we've seen sparks of what she will become in the next few years as far as a top player in the nation. Kayla Schaefer, who did not play, seems to be one such as Aaron Smith, who will no longer continue her soccer career. Aaron Smith was on this list. Also on this team was Maggie Doherty Howard, also mentioned for Rookie of the Year honors. Kayla Mills, who has had a disappointing season. And then Chris McNabb, who has been solid for Seattle. Nothing too impressive, but she does seem to be a player that will come into her own on the back line for the Reign. Last two, Christina Gibbons, played solid in Kansas City, now moving up toward the midfield. Seems to be a staple in their starting lineup. And Kaylin Sheridan, who you've heard me talk about a handful of times on here. So Sheridan, Howard, Hatch, three I have listed on this team. The three that I think are the front runners for Rookie of the Year. Your opinion on Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, it's difficult. I kind of have two sides of the thing. So I feel like Hatch should win it because from what I've seen, what I've read from her this season, kind of seems logical to pick her. But you look at the team that surrounds her, and does that affect it at all? In a good way or a bad way? I'm taking it as a detriment to her because she has so many great players around her. So is it just making her look better than she actually is in a sense? Because she has an easy job, right? Because she's surrounded by how many national team players that are great, who have been great. So do you look at it that way, or do you look at it, are you going to pick the best rookie individually? Are you going to take their individual performances, and that's who you're going to give the award to, without any sort of external factors factoring into it? So I think Hatch gets it, and I think she should. But I think she's also had some help to get it.
Yeah, so I take great offense to that argument there about her having so much around her. I mean, Ashley Hatch is a player that if the nation wasn't loaded with forwards, in my opinion, she's a top 5 American forward currently right now. There's no doubt in my mind that she is actually, especially now that you're giving that look, trying to think of other players who are better than her. So I don't know. I've seen that argument before. I've seen that mentioned, such as you have, about her having a team around her that makes her look better than she is.
Right, and that's what I mean. I mean it in quotations. I didn't mean it in sort of any literal way.
With that said, Kaylin Sheridan is my Rookie of the Year, who had a tremendous first half of the year and has had a solid second half of the year. Nothing spectacular, but what she did in that first half was enough for me to continue to talk about her, obviously, and prove her worth there as a starting goalkeeper in the league, which has been fantastic. That I think she was third on Chris Henderson's big board as far as goalies were concerned. So that's very cool to see her come on as a professional. The awards will be announced over the next couple of weeks. Awards: best 11, second best 11, Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, MVP. Sam Kerr will win the first award that will be announced for Golden Boot. 17 goals for Sam Kerr. And the best 11 will be announced on the 12th. So I fully expect you to have your best 11 picked out in the next week for us to go over before the league announces theirs.
MVP is?
I don't know.
You're thinking about it. Oh my goodness.
Should I not be?
Well, who do you have on your list? If give me 3 players, or if it's like 5, give me all 5 players.
Okay, well, I'll keep Nicole Zerboni on there just because we mentioned her earlier this year.
Yep.
And I don't think she gets enough credit. Sam Kerr, obviously, has to be there. Probably Rapinoe is on. Rapinoe's close to that list.
She's just great in general, so to keep her off would be. It's like, yeah, I get what you're saying. She's close, but maybe not quite there.
I mean,
Is Marta?
If that
is
team's
Marta
in
on
the
the short
playoffs,
list?
No.
Okay.
Maybe she plays the full season.
Okay.
I don't know if I have a Thorn on that list. I don't know if I have a Red Star on that list. Orlando member, I would say no. Obviously
Definitely
not Washington, Boston, or Houston.
Yeah.
Or Kansas City.
I was gonna say that next, but I'm glad you did.
So yeah, maybe those. How many? 3? Kerr, Sheridan. Well, yeah, Kerr, Sheridan.
You're gonna add Sheridan to the list?
I'll add Sheridan just since I guess we need competition between Sheridan, Kerr, and Zerboni. Will be my 3, I guess.
Okay, so you're taking Rapinoe out.
Yeah, maybe she is 4, but I'm not gonna. She's not in that upper first echelon, I guess is what I'll say.
Okay.
You have names?
Oh, I don't think there should be any hesitation. I think that there's only one name up there, and that name is Sam Kerr.
Not even gonna win the FIFA player.
Yeah. Maybe we should throw Carly Lloyd on
that. Just tells you how terrible the NWSL is. If the best
Carly
player
Lloyd,
in this league isn't even considered in the.
I mean, she played what, 4 games, 5 games, maybe?
Yep.
She's on that list.
Well, exactly, and that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
So maybe Sam Kerr, that should be the new strategy for her next season.
Just don't play for 80% of the season.
Yeah, just go to Australia, play a couple games, and maybe come back halfway through the season. Score every once in a while. Make an impact every 30 minutes, and you'll get on the FIFA list. It's a good strategy.
Speaking of players on the move, trying to come to grips with Daly possibly not being on the dash, Ratcliffe not being on FCKC. I did see Chris Henderson's tweet today that mentioned the possibility of FCKC not even being a team entirely.
Yeah.
We can get into that later, but I am awaiting my. I showed you my tweet to Rachel. Give credit to Rachel for her reply using the Terminator GIF. Spot on, Rachel. So it'll be interesting to see where those 2 players go. Might be nice because I might be able to drop the dash from teams that I pay attention to a lot, and I can just pay attention to them a little, which would probably happen if she does leave. So looking, for maybe not forward to that happening, but it's a good possibility.
Yeah, I know. I'm interested to see where Hagen ends up if she's in the NWSL next year, if she decides to go play overseas, because that was kind of rumored even before the beginning of this season. I do believe that she was possibly going to play overseas. So that's going to take the dash off of my radar then.
So you can't call them "we" all year and then just drop them.
Dude, that's what's going to end up happening. This is what I get. This is what I get. Now, I'll still pay attention to them. I'll still be a fan. A very upset fan every week, but I will still be a fan. But where do you think Daly would go, because that thought had crossed my mind earlier in the season, or I shouldn't say earlier in the season. I should probably say like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's like she could actually be gone.
Yeah, I don't know. Not Orlando, not Chicago.
Yeah. I didn't know if you had anything off the top of your head, or if you had seen some rumors or anything like that.
No, not Washington, not North Carolina. So there's 4 teams.
Yeah.
Boston possibility, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Kansas City going after her.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Seattle. I guess I'd say there was a shot at Seattle.
Man, don't go to Seattle.
Yeah, but I'm more interested in seeing where Ratcliffe ends up.
You think she'll be gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they shouldn't get rid of her, but the way that organization's run, then
they're gonna get rid
why
of
not get rid of why not get rid of their best offseason pickup? Yeah, but if she stays, yeah, that'll be I guess disappointing. It's I mean, I'm sure, as you know, it's tough to watch favorite players sort of meddle on teams who don't have the instinct to go after a championship like Kansas City and Houston are clearly showing currently. So on the other side of the world of sports, we've been seeing athletes make sort of protest with their kneeling during the national anthem, their outspoken language in press conferences. And I've seen a couple of articles on this topic and relating it back to women's sports, because these articles and tweets, comments are trying to give credit to the female athletes for being the first to stand up against these, whatever you want to call them. I don't have a great word for them, so you know what I'm talking about. Megan Rapinoe being the first white athlete to take a knee during the national anthem. The team in the WNBA playoffs, LA Sparks, staying in the locker room for the national anthem, then coming out after. So these comments and articles are calling for these female athletes to be recognized, for women's athletics to be recognized as the leader in this development that we've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
I have a problem with that. And it's simply the fact that it's a question to me of, is this do we want this attention on female athletes? What doors do this open up? The possibilities of the public,
of more hate? Is that what you're trying to get at? Okay.
Of the public seeing this. I mean, like, oh, great. Yeah, they make how much money, and they think they can. It's almost sort of the opposite of all these guys make all this money and they're going to do this. They should just shut up and play, right? Well, I don't even know who these players are, and they're taking a knee during the national anthem and not coming out from the locker room. Like, what do they make? $10 an hour? Yeah. You know, it's great that we do have leaders in these sports, but to kind of be poking the bear and saying, "Hey, no, look at us. We were doing this first. You know, why aren't you coming about us?" I think could be a very troubling situation, one that I'm fine with staying away from.
Yeah, I think from what I kind of have read and what I have personally thought about it is the fact that female athletes have always been at the forefront of pretty much every sort of, and I'm not going to say this correctly, kind of political battle. That's probably not the correct wording of what I'm trying to describe, but essentially they've always had to fight. They've always had to battle to get to where they are. And so I understand your concern of, hey, let's give them the attention for doing this, and it's essentially getting them attention for something off the court, which is fine and in and of itself. And I'm glad that they're doing something about it and aren't just kind of sitting by the wayside, not saying anything about it. But I would rather get them recognized as a whole versus people just seeing, oh my goodness, they're in the locker room during the national anthem, or they're kneeling during the national anthem. That in and of itself is the problem right now, is across all sports, is that we're taking the actual act of them kneeling, them locking arms, them not being out on the field or out on the court during the national anthem, instead of actually talking about what's actually happening and what we actually need to start doing. We're just sitting behind our computers and we're tweeting about it and we're putting it out on Facebook versus talking about what we need to be doing to hopefully in some way change that. Acts are becoming what we're talking about instead of the actual reason why they're kneeling and the reason why they're not out on the court or the field. So
and you don't see that changing, do you?
Oh no,
I don't.
Because no, it's never going to change because the media has taken it so far. And you look at it and you scroll through Twitter on Sunday during the NFL and you see pictures of players who are kneeling, players who are locking arms, and I think that's all good and fine. And I'm not being upset with them about them doing something. I'm upset with the media and how they're twisting it, and they're saying, oh my goodness, look at this athlete, look at what they're doing. Here, this is what they said. Versus, okay, well, why are they doing it? Why isn't your article about that? Versus the LA Sparks are in the locker room. You just spent 10 paragraphs saying that they were in the locker room. You could have spent 10 paragraphs explaining why they're in the locker room, and hey, here's what you can do.
I'm still trying to find my opinion towards
in general,
towards the media.
Yeah.
Athletes, I'm 100% behind doing whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a lot of media on my Twitter. I don't follow a lot of accounts that are media based. I'm lucky enough to have followers who don't retweet, a lot of media accounts, and obviously I have the ones who are dumb enough to tweet something idiotic that doesn't make any sense about these displays that these athletes are producing.
Right.
But I don't know. There has at some point the rhetoric no longer has an impact, and I think we're already there. And I say that because I agree with you that at some point it needs a change, but I think it's already changed. I think the information is already out there. It has already been written about. The stories have already been written about. The people that we need to talk to and ask, hey, what's going on? Why are people doing this? Have already been asked, hey, what's going on? Why are we doing this? And it's just laying out there and out in outer space, so we can go to the internet and find and do our own research and see what's fake news and figure out on our own what our opinion should be, as opposed to seeing and reacting. And I guess that kind of ties into why it worries me about this poking the bear, because if you do turn it on, or if you do start seeing these storylines about these female athletes doing them, then that is an instant reaction for the people who the argument that I saw this morning on my Twitter account based off of this, that's exactly how it would have went. Just this one person that I know on my Twitter account, tweeting that just as an instant, whatever, and put a cool, funny hashtag on the end of it. It's very worrisome for me. So I don't know. I don't blame the media a whole lot for this. I see where you're coming from, but at some point,
so how did it go from this is why. So in the beginning, I feel like there was more discussion about this is why.
Mm-hmm.
So in my thinking, this all essentially came about because of Colin Kaepernick, if
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of on the same page here. So in the beginning, it was all about, well, why is he doing this? Why isn't he doing anything to help out? So now that continued for probably about 2 months, and then it kind of went away from, you would have every once in a while, you'd have a player knee or something like that. And then come this kind of summer, I guess, it got hyped up more. And then it started to get hyped up some more because he didn't get signed. Now it's the start of NFL season, and we've got this going on. And then the president decides to say whatever he said. I don't remember his exact quote, but something that was not an educated thing to say. And here we are. And we're talking about the action. So for me, it switched a long time ago. I'm not just saying that it recently switched from why are they doing this to here's what they're doing instead of why they're doing it. So I think it switched a long time ago. And I think that it's because of the media. So essentially, where are you coming? Like, why do you think that rhetoric changed? How did it change if it wasn't the media?
Because people are lazy.
Okay. That's a logical answer. I'm on board with that.
I would say you take every single person who's tweeted about that subject in a light that, or in their comments are putting these athletes in the dark. I mean, 95% of those people would be my guess as far as people who haven't looked at a reputable source to find any sort of information as to why they're doing this, or if what kind of impact they've made in their community over the last 5 years.
So yeah. So you're not saying directly the media, so you're not directly saying the USA Today or anything like that. You're saying people on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I say yeah.
Because like I said, and that's why I said because I don't have any media accounts. I don't pay attention to that. The stuff I do watch on TV, I turn it. This is one of the subjects I will not listen to the news talk about because I know what you're saying there, that it typically is about look at this guy, look at what he did yesterday, or look at this guy, what he did yesterday. So that's I stay away from that side of things.
Yeah.
So what
and
what are the man? I really wish Rapina would have kept doing that. So I'd really like to talk about the chances of her becoming a Kaepernick, but it's not going to happen.
Well, didn't she kneeled at a Seattle Reign game, if I'm not mistaken, and then didn't the national team come out and say that everyone has to stand? At some point, they came out with a statement that said, you have to stand for the national anthem.
Yeah, that sounds right. I remember them making a statement about it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was because she kneeled during a national team game or if it was after that first kneel that she had. I can't remember. I'd have to look back. But I know that they came out with a statement. So she's stopped it. At least what I took from it is that they came out with this statement. So she stopped. Could be completely wrong on that. She could have stopped for other reasons.
Man, I really wish I would have been Hope Solo that knelt.
You would have fallen in love with her. She would have been your favorite player. You would be wearing her jersey right now. That is so true. You know it. I do kind of want to point out one thing, though, that kind of pertains to this, and I don't know if you saw it, and I guess I follow more media outlets than you do, but when I say media, I mean social media as well, was the latest Sports Illustrated cover. It was you haven't seen it. Okay, so it was supposed to be from what I gathered, an inclusive cover, an equality cover, just essentially wrapping up kind of everything that's been going on. And so you would think that one, Colin Kaepernick would be on the cover, right? Two, that there would be some females on there, right? No Colin Kaepernick, one female. I think there were probably maybe 10 athletes on there, one female. Candace Parker was the only one.
So what does that say?
It says that they missed the point. They missed the mark by 1,000 yards.
And this is Sports Illustrated?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I know. Throw a soccer player on there. Throw Carly Lloyd on there. My goodness.
Yeah, she's on everything else, right?
Right.
People will recognize her and turn in.
Mm-hmm.
People see Carly Lloyd scroll on their guide and see, oh, Seattle's playing Sky Blue FC.
Mm-hmm.
Carly Lloyd's on either one of those teams. Here we go. I'm going to watch this for 2 hours. Is that right?
They're gonna start watching the U.S. men's team now. Apparently, they've got the next superstar, the next American
about
superstar.
Time America has a good soccer team.
Yeah. And I mean, 60 Minutes had a whole segment on them tonight.
60 Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Good for them. I'm proud.
They also said that the U.S. team hasn't made a World Cup.
The U.S. team hasn't made a World Cup?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Then they politely corrected themselves.
Yeah, after deleting their tweet. Deleting their tweet.
They didn't even have the courtesy of keeping that tweet up. They deleted it.
That's great.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Love
this is the same guy that's been right, like 2 months ago when we talked about this.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't the same guy.
Yeah.
So it's just built. And who was that? Who did I tweet at? 538, right? Wasn't it? Was it this kid?
Yeah, I think it was 538.
Was it this same kid?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's gonna be the same Christian Pulisic, whatever. I know his first name is Christian. That's all I know.
I'm glad that I couldn't even tell you that much. So we did not get to the NWHL expansion, but we'll get to that. Hopefully, we'll get to that next week. That season does start. Well, actually, a week from tomorrow. The exhibition.
I was just going to say, is it this week?
The exhibition matches will start, and then on the 28th of October is the first game. First two games, all four teams play. But there are some rumblings about NWHL expansion, so that's we'll see how long the topic is for our discussion. But with that, we are at 43 and a quarter minutes. It is 10:37 now. We did start a little early, so we'll let everybody go home a little early and shut down your computer, let it get a little bit more rest. So with that, we'll leave you, and thanks for stopping by the Hero Press Box.